"Sir, my mom isn't waking up." The words were barely louder than a breath, yet they cut through the busy hospital corridor like a scream no one else seemed to hear. A little girl stood there, fragile and trembling, her fingers clutching a sleeve that did not belong to her world. In that instant, time slowed. The man she had stopped, one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, felt something inside him freeze, something that money, success, and control had never touched before. The hallway lights blurred, the noise faded, and for the first time in years, he felt truly afraid. Not for himself, but for someone else. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when strangers choose compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are waiting to feel again. The CEO had come to the hospital that morning wrapped in the familiar armor of authority. His tailored suit, polished shoes, and guarded expression announced a man used to command, not to pause. He was there for a board member's routine visit, a matter of obligation rather than concern. His life was scheduled down to the minute, his days filled with meetings, negotiations, and the endless pursuit of growth. Emotions had long been replaced by efficiency. Somewhere along the way, he had convinced himself that caring too deeply was a liability he could no longer afford. The little girl did not know any of this. She only knew that her mother had stopped waking up. She had shaken her gently, whispered to her, waited for the rise and fall of her chest to feel normal again. When fear finally swallowed her courage, she had wandered into the corridor, eyes scanning for anyone who looked strong enough to help. Fate, or something kinder, led her to him. He followed her, though he could not yet explain why. His steps echoed differently. As they moved down the hallway, past doors that hid pain, hope, and waiting. The girl walked fast despite her small legs, as if worried that every second mattered more than the last. When they reached the room, the air inside felt heavy, like grief had settled there long before either of them arrived. On the bed lay a woman whose face was pale, her body thin in a way that spoke of exhaustion rather than illness alone. Machines hummed softly around her, doing the work her body struggled to do. This was not a dramatic emergency scene from television. It was quieter, more terrifying, because it felt real. The kind of real that does not announce itself with alarms, but creeps in slowly, stealing breath and strength when no one is looking. The CEO stood there, unsure of where to put his hands, his eyes, his thoughts. He had closed billion-dollar deals without blinking, but this was different. This was not something he could fix with a signature or a phone call, or so he thought. As doctors and nurses were alerted, fragments of the woman's life began to surface. She was a single mother, working 2 jobs, skipping meals so her daughter could eat. Chronic fatigue, untreated symptoms, missed appointments because time and money never lined up. Her body had finally demanded what she could no longer give. The system had seen her as another number, another file, another patient waiting too long. The little girl sat in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, watching every movement with eyes far older than her years. She did not cry loudly. She did not scream. She waited, silently, because that was what life had taught her to do. Something shifted inside the CEO as he watched her. Memories he had buried clawed their way back. A small apartment, a mother who worked until her hands ached, evenings spent waiting for her to come home, hoping she would not be too tired to smile. He had escaped that life, or so he believed, but standing there, he realized it had never truly left him. He stayed longer than planned, then longer still. Calls went unanswered, meetings were postponed. For once, the world did not collapse because he stepped away from it. Instead, something within him began to rebuild. He learned that the woman needed immediate specialized care, treatment that was possible but expensive, delayed by approvals and processes that moved far slower than her condition allowed. The hospital did what it could, but limits were limits. The unspoken truth hung in the air like fog. Without intervention, the outcome was uncertain. The CEO had built an empire on solving problems. That instinct surged back, but this time it was guided by something unfamiliar: empathy. He made calls, not to impress or dominate, but to help. He authorized transfers, funded treatment, and cut through red tape that suddenly seemed obscene in the face of human life. For the first time, his influence was not about profit or reputation. It was about a mother and a child days past. The woman remained unconscious, balanced between fragile stability and looming danger. The little girl returned every day, sitting by the bed, holding her mother's hand, whispering stories from school, from dreams, from memories where everything was still okay. The CEO found himself there too, quietly, often unnoticed, watching over a family that was not his, yet felt achingly familiar. In those long hours, he saw the hospital differently. He noticed the nurses who stayed late, the families who slept in chairs, the children who learned too early how to be brave. The world he had ruled from glass towers looked distant, almost unreal, compared to this place where every moment mattered. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. The woman's condition stabilized, a flicker of response, a slight improvement that doctors described with cautious hope. Each small sign felt monumental. The little girl smiled more, though fear still lingered behind her eyes, unwilling to leave completely. The CEO arranged support beyond the hospital walls: housing security, a recovery plan, education funds, not as charity for applause, but as responsibility. He understood now how easily one bad turn could unravel an entire life, no matter how hard someone tried. When the woman finally woke, it was not dramatic. Her eyes opened slowly, confused, searching. The first thing she saw was her daughter, leaning forward, hope trembling on her face. The moment did not need words. It was enough that breath returned, that life chose to stay. The CEO stood back, unnoticed, tears blurring his vision in a way he did not bother to hide. He felt lighter and heavier all at once. Lighter because something broken inside him had begun to heal. Heavier because he understood how much suffering existed beyond his boardrooms and balance sheets. He did not walk away after that day. He changed policies, redirected resources, and reshaped parts of his company to support healthcare access and emergency aid, not as a publicity move, but as a promise to himself. Success, he realized, meant nothing if it did not reach the people who needed it most. The little girl never knew the full extent of what he did. To her, he was simply the man who stopped, who listened, who did not turn away when it would have been easier to do so. Sometimes, that is all it takes to change a life. Someone who stops. Just before the ending, please leave a comment telling us what this story made you feel, or share a moment when kindness changed your life. As the family left the hospital weeks later, stronger, steadier, the CEO watched from a distance. The girl looked back once and waved, her smile bright and unburdened. In that wave was gratitude, but also something deeper, proof that humanity still mattered in a world obsessed with winning. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion can rewrite destinies and that even the most powerful people are still human inside, please like this video, share it, and engage with the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive, and your kindness keeps hope moving forward.